Hello and welcome to another English Help Desk live lesson. In this lesson, we are going to be learning yet more idioms with colors. So previously, we've looked at idioms using blue and idioms using black. In this lesson, going to mix it up a little bit. We're going to be mostly looking at green and white as well. Also, a little bit of pink, hence the reason I'm wearing these colors. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce a few different idioms. I will then give you a definition for each idiom, as well as an extra quick explanation, just to make sure that you understand what the idioms mean. And then I will give two different examples showing how the idioms are used in more natural speech in English. Anyway, the idioms that we will learn today will be green as grass, a green belt. We will also be looking at give someone the green light or get the green light, green with envy, have green fingers or got green fingers. Then we'll move on to white, which will be as white as a sheet or as white as a ghost, white coffee, and then finishing off the lesson with a white collar worker or a white collar job, as well as a quick look at pink collar as well. And finally, a white lie or a little white lie. So I'm going to put each of these idioms in the description below with a little timestamp so that if you quickly want to go to each of the idioms, you can. And there'll be a review at the end as well, where I just go over each of the idioms one more time with a quick definition and explanation of each. So if you've watched the video already, but just want a quick reminder of each, you can go to the review. Timestamp will be in the description. Anyway, we're going to begin with the idiom be green. So be green doesn't mean being a Martian or an alien from another planet if you are green. What be green means is, and it's informal, it is to be too trusting, naive, and easily deceived through a lack of experience. So if you're new to a situation and somebody, as a joke, gives you the wrong information, because they think doing that is funny, and you believe them, then you are considered to be green. You believe them because why would they lie? And yeah, you don't know any better. But the meaning that we'll be looking at a little bit more in this lesson is to be inexperienced or new to something. So a situation I think everybody's been in at some point in their lives when they start a new job, for example, they don't quite know what they're doing on their very first day, or where everything is, who the people are, and how to act. Or if we're playing a sport, for example, again, if it's the first time that you're playing the sport, you might kind of know what you're doing, but you're not very good. And so in both of those situations, we would use the phrase be green. So let's have a look at an example. I was very green when I started teaching. I had no idea what I was doing. So here, yeah, we're putting the example as beginning a new job. Now, I know what a teacher is and I know what teachers do, but you don't always understand just how difficult it is to be a teacher until your very first day in class. You might think you have an excellent lesson, or you might think that you are the funniest teacher in the world. But if the students are just sitting there bored or clearly don't understand what's going on, then yeah, you haven't done as well as you wanted, or the students just don't act the way that you expect them. You give them homework and they don't, and they lie, and they're just bad students all the way through the semester. Yeah, you have to learn how to deal with those people, and it's not always an easy thing to learn. So, yeah, you start off green, but as you continue in the job and you get more experience, you become less and less green. Okay, our second example is the team hated me because I was so green at playing football. So here again, we have a team situation. Football is a team game, but in this example, I've clearly never played football before, or I'm very new to playing football, so I am not doing a good job. As a consequence, the other team members are getting frustrated with me, possibly a bit angry, because I keep making mistakes, and as a result, the whole team are not doing well. So again, being new to a game, I am very green in that game. All right, let's have a look at our next idiom, which is as green as grass. As green as grass. So basically, this has pretty much exactly the same definition as to be green. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the same examples, but I'm just going to change the phrase be green to as green as grass to show you how each of these idioms can be used in exactly the same situations. So, I was as green as grass when I started teaching. I had no idea what I was doing. So instead of saying I was green, yeah, I've changed the idiom to I was as green as grass. Likewise, with our second example, the team hated me because I was as green as grass at playing football. So again, instead of using the idiom be green, we're using as green as grass. Same meaning, and therefore we can use the idioms in the same situations. All right. Um, let's move on. So our next one is a green belt. A green belt. Now, we are not talking about an item that you wear around your trousers to stop your trousers falling down. No, what we're talking here is more about nature. Very often, green is used with nature or to show that you are friendly to the environment. In fact, another meaning of be green is being kind to the environment. And so, yeah, a green belt here means an area of fields and woodlands around a time, around a town, or sometimes a city as well. Basically, areas of nature that are protected by the town or city themselves. Very often, in most green belts, people are not allowed to build houses or build any kind of buildings on them. They're there to be just natural environments. So, as our first example, No buildings are allowed to be built in the green belt around our town. So again, here, the green belt is being kept as an area of nature in order to just stop the city growing and expanding or just destroying the countryside around the town. Same with our second example. Our second example is very similar. I wish our city had more green belts to protect the countryside more. So here in this situation, in this example, perhaps the city just keeps growing and expanding and getting bigger and bigger, destroying the natural countryside around it. So the person speaking in the second example just wishes that natural areas, those natural areas could be protected more and kept natural instead of becoming just urban areas. All right, let's move on. Our next idiom is give someone the green light or to get the green light. So, green light, what this means is to give or to get, receive approval or permission to start doing something. So very often here, when we use the term green light, we're talking about big projects that maybe need a lot of money or a lot of resources. In fact, it very often gets used in the movie industry. Making a movie can be very, very expensive, and yeah, movie studios receive lots of movie ideas, but they only actually make a very few of those movies. So when they give permission to to allow someone to make a movie, then yeah, they're giving the green light. They're giving permission for those people to make that movie. So, as our example, after talks with many producers, we were finally given the green light to start making our film. So producers are people in the movie industry who very often have lots and lots of money and often are the ones who decide if a movie is made or not. So yeah, so talking to many producers, finally the director, the writer, the actors were given permission to begin making their movie. But it's not just the movie industry that we use the term green light for. As I said, it can be any kind of project, a science project or a school project, or if you want to make your house bigger, for example, you have to ask the local government, the local council to expand your house. And yeah, so in our second example, we have more of a school situation. And so we got the green light from our teacher so we can do our project. So here the students, maybe their project is very expensive and they need to get some money from the school, or maybe it's a more dangerous project. And yeah, to be able to do it, they have to be allowed by their teacher to do the project. But either way, they are being given the green light from the teacher. Yeah, and they got the green light from the teacher. Let's move on. Let's have a look at the next idiom, which is green with envy. Green with envy. So you might be able to guess what this means. And basically, it means to be extremely envious of someone or something. So if someone is very jealous, then we often say that that person is green with envy. And green with envy is often used with the verbs be, go, turn, or make someone. So he was green with envy. He went green with envy. She turned green with envy, or I made Jane green with envy. To be jealous. So let's have a look at an example. I was green with envy when I saw Bill's new motorbike. So in this example, Bill has got rid of his old motorbike, Judy. Long live her soul. But yeah, Judy's gone and Bill has bought a brand new motorbike. And it's obviously a very, very nice motorbike, probably very expensive and definitely much better than my own motorbike. So I become jealous. I want a bike just like Bill's. And yeah, I become jealous. I become green with envy. Another example is all my friends turned green with envy when they found out my girlfriend is Beyonce. So here we're using green with envy with the verb turn. And yeah, you all know who Beyonce is. She's married to Jay-Z, or she was married to Jay-Z, but now she's my girlfriend. Well, she's not. She's still married to Jay-Z. No, she doesn't know who I am. But if I were to start dating Beyonce, because she's so well known, she's so popular and so famous that, yeah, all of my friends would definitely be very jealous. They would definitely turn green with envy if they discovered I am dating Beyonce. Never going to happen, but one can dream. All right, moving on. The next idiom is have green fingers or got green fingers. So again, we're not talking about someone who's half an alien. What we mean here is, again, coming back to nature. Someone who has green fingers is someone who is good at gardening, good at looking after plants, good at helping flowers to grow. So I think where this comes from is because plants often have green leaves, and people who like gardening obviously have to touch and, touch plants a lot. I think that sometimes the green residue from the leaves rubs off on their fingers, so their fingers actually become green. And yeah, to have green fingers shows that you are good at gardening, that you know what you are doing when it comes to plants. As an example, my uncle can make anything grow in his garden. He really has green fingers. So not all plants are easy to grow. Not all flowers are easy to grow. Sometimes they need very different conditions. Sometimes they require a lot of care to help them grow. You need to know what kind of food to give them, how much water to give them. And so an expert at gardening would know all of these things. And in that case, just like my uncle, who is an expert in these things, we would say that person has green fingers. Unlike me, for example, number 2, I wish I had green fingers. Every plant I have had died very quickly. So here I am not good at taking care of plants, and in fact, yeah, they die. So I definitely don't have green fingers. Maybe I give them too much water. Maybe I don't give them enough water. Maybe I give them the wrong kinds of food. Whatever happens, plants seem to die very quickly when I have them. So I really don't have many plants at all because I definitely do not have green fingers. That's it for green. Now we're going to move on to white. And our first white idiom is as white as a sheet or as white as a ghost. And what this means is if you become as white as a sheet or as white as a ghost, you become very pale because of fear, shock, illness, etc. So basically, what happens is in some situations, if you're suddenly scared, the blood in your head quickly drains out of your head and the skin looks very white. It's the same if you get sick or some sicknesses. Again, the blood leaves your head and yeah, the skin looks very white. So we say as white as a sheet or as white as a ghost. We use this phrase with the verbs be, go, turn, and look. So he was as white as a ghost. She went as white as a ghost. They turned as white as a sheet. And we looked as white as a sheet. So again, when you're suddenly scared or shocked, or if you're sick in a certain kind of way. As an example, my face was as white as a sheet after watching that horror movie. So, as I'm sure you are aware, horror movies can often be very scary. You're watching it, everything goes quiet, and then suddenly, boo, a monster jumps out, and everybody's like, oh gosh, so scary. And sometimes in that moment, yeah, people's faces become very pale. So we can say they turned as white as a sheet. Or let's have a look at another example. Because of her illness, Sarah looked as white as a ghost. So here we're putting as white as a ghost with the verb look. Because of her illness, Sarah looked as white as a ghost. And again, sometimes people become sick in a certain kind of way. That means that the blood doesn't move around their body quite so well, and their skin looks very pale or just looks very white. Let's have a look at another idiom. This is not really an idiom, but I thought it might be useful to look at anyway. White coffee. White coffee. So these days, because of Starbucks and the rise of coffee shops, people, when they talk about coffee, usually talk about things like Americanos, espressos, cafe lattes, cappuccinos, frappuccinos, blah, 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 blah. There seems to be 100 million different types of coffee, all very expensive and all with little differences. But when we use the term white coffee, we are basically just talking about coffee with milk or cream. This was a term that was used a lot a long time ago. You don't really hear it so much these days for the reasons I just explained. But when people do talk about white coffee, they're just talking about a very simple kind of coffee, the kind of coffee that you make quickly at home if you don't have a lot of time. Just a very simple, very basic coffee with some milk or cream in it. If we don't put milk or cream in it, then we call it a black coffee. So, as an example, I much prefer, oops, that's example 2. As an example, I much prefer white coffee. Black coffee is too bitter for me. So yeah, your Americanos, your espressos, very popular, but they can taste bitter. And I know I certainly prefer a little bit of milk in my coffee just to make it taste a little bit better for me. A second example would be for breakfast. I always have 2 pieces of toast and some white coffee. Again, here I'm talking about coffee as something that is simple and quick to make. I know that if you want a very good coffee, it can take a very long time to make. But in the morning, if you're tired and sleepy and you haven't woken up properly yet, taking all of that time to make a nice coffee, nobody wants to do that. Certainly, I don't want to do that. I just want to make a very simple, quick coffee. And yeah, with a bit of milk. So, white coffee, simple, basic coffee with some milk or cream in it. Let's have a look at the next one, which is a white collar worker, a white collar job. If you watched the previous video, idioms with blue, you might remember that I talked about blue collar workers. Blue collar workers are people who use their hands for their jobs, people who work in factories, or people who work on a farm, or craftsmen, but primarily people who use their hands as their main tool for their job. A white collar worker, however, is someone who is a non-manual worker. So someone who works in an office or does professional or business work, etc. Basically, we're talking about the kinds of jobs where people wear a suit and tie to go to work. And they mostly use their brains. If they use their hands at all, it's for typing on a computer as opposed to using complicated tools. So a non-manual worker, someone who doesn't use their hands, someone who uses their brain more often. People who wear suits and ties. Let's have a look at an example. Bill hates all the paperwork in his white-collar job and wants to go back to working on a farm. So I don't know how many of you work in an office, but working in an office, yeah, there's lots of papers to look at, lots of documents, lots of emails, lots of memos. And yeah, all of them have complicated figures or, yeah, just all sorts of silly stuff that might seem important, but yeah, does it really matter? So in this example, Bill, he works in an office, but doesn't like all the paperwork and just wants to go back to a more simple time when, yeah, he just was using his hands on a farm. Bill Algeo, do green fingers and a green thumb have the same meaning? Basically, yes. A green thumb, I believe, is more American, whereas green fingers is more British. But basically, they have the same meaning. It's just different countries. Bill, who's from America and used to have a bike called Judy. Okay, coming back to white collar workers. White collar workers often have very stressful jobs. So lots of meetings, lots of pressure and stress. You can't do anything without your boss watching you all the time. If you just want to go to the toilet, you have to be careful in case the boss thinks that you've gone for a long time. All of those meetings, you have a meeting at 9 o'clock, a meeting at 11 o'clock, a meeting at 3 o'clock, sales figures. You're expected to make so much money for the company all the time. And if you don't make enough money, your boss gets angry at you. So, white collar workers, people who work in offices, particularly people who work in business, can have very stressful times. So white collar workers, people who work in an office or business or professional environments, people who have to wear a suit and tie. But what about me? I'm wearing a pink collar. Let's have a look at that. So a pink collar worker. A pink collar worker is someone who works in the service industry. As an example, a teacher is a pink collar worker. A nurse, a waiter, a sales clerk are all pink collar workers. So if your job means you have to deal with lots of people, lots of customers, lots of patients, or lots of students, then we can say you are a pink collar worker. As an example, me. I'm a pink collar worker because I'm a teacher. So that's why I'm wearing my pink collar today. I was going to wear a white collar, but I didn't think it would be appropriate. So I can say I'm a pink collar worker, not because I'm wearing a pink collar, but because I teach as my job and I deal with lots of people, particularly students. Another example of pink collar would be pink collar jobs were traditionally only done by women. So many people think pink is a bit of a feminine color, a woman's color, and I think that's where the term comes from. But 100 years ago, teachers were almost always women. Certainly nurses were women, or people who help other people were more traditionally women. Times change. Of course, all of these jobs can be done by men and women equally, but the term pink collar is still there. All right, let's have a look at the next one then, which is a little white lie, or a white lie if you want to shorten it and say it more quickly. So a white lie is basically a lie, but a lie in which you do not want to cause any harm and is considered more polite than the truth. So if we tell a white lie, we are trying to spare someone's feelings or for convenience. Basically, a white lie is there if telling the truth can be more hurtful. So if I were to say that, Bill is very ugly, he might get upset. But if I were to say Bill has a very charming look, then he might feel more comfortable. I haven't said he's handsome. I've just said he's got a charming look as a nice way to not hurt his feelings. Let's have a look at an example. I told Ted I couldn't go to his party as I had work to do. A little white lie won't hurt his feelings. So in this example, Ted is having a party, but Ted's parties, they can sometimes be a little bit boring. He often plays music that not many other people want to listen to, and his conversation is usually about TV shows that most people haven't seen. So going to his parties can be a bit boring and I don't really want to go to the party. But rather than saying to Ted, no, your parties are boring, what I'm going to do is tell a white lie and say, actually, Ted, I'd love to come, but I can't come to your party. I've got work to do. So, in that way, I'm trying to help Ted feel better. Obviously, I can't come, but yeah, I don't want to tell him the truth because doing so would make him feel bad. So far, so good. I'm happy. Ted's happy. Everybody's happy. But the problem with a white lie is that if I were to meet a friend in a coffee shop and post lots of pictures on Facebook, and Ted later noticed all of those pictures, then he would know that I lied to him. So a white lie helped Ted feel good earlier on, but later, because he found out I was lying, then Ted becomes upset and I have become a bad friend. Basically, be careful when telling white lies. Let's have a look at another example. His wife always tells him white lies about his fashion sense to make him feel better. In this example, we have a husband and wife, and maybe the husband doesn't have the best fashion sense, but maybe he also doesn't have much money. Sure, he'd love to buy Armani, he'd love to buy Gucci, but he can only afford supermarket clothes. And they don't look great on him. But the wife knows that he can't afford expensive or nice looking clothes. So as a result, to stop him feeling bad about not having much money, yeah, the wife says, darling, you look great. You look wonderful in that supermarket t-shirt. So a little white lie to stop the husband feeling bad because he doesn't have much money. That's it for the idioms. What I'm going to do now is to review each of the idioms that we've looked at. So I'm going to show you the idiom and I'll give you a few seconds to see if you can remember the meaning of each of them. And then after a few seconds, I will show you what the idiom means. So our first one was be green. What does be green mean? Be green in this example means to be, hang on a second, too trusting, naive, and easily deceived through a lack of experience. So if you don't know much about a subject and somebody tells you something incorrect, you believe them because, well, why would they be telling a lie? So, naive, but it also has the meaning of being inexperienced or new to something. So, just not having a lot of knowledge about the thing that you are doing. So, be green. As green as grass is the next one. As green as grass. What does this mean? As green as grass basically has the same meaning as be green, that you are naive, inexperienced, easily deceived, or new to something. Okay, let's move on. The next one was a green belt. A green belt. What did this mean? So a green belt is an area of fields and woodlands around a town or sometimes a city. Usually they are protected by the town or city government, and yeah, you're not allowed to build buildings on them. They're there to be protected, to protect the environment and the countryside. All right. Give someone the green light or get the green light. What does this mean? Give someone the green light, get the green light. Okay, so this one has the meaning of giving approval or receiving approval or permission to start doing something. So if you have a big project that might require a lot of money or resources or help from someone else, you need to ask permission from that other person. And when they say, yes, you can do it, you are given the green light. Green with envy. What does green with envy mean? Green with envy has the meaning of being extremely envious or jealous of someone or something. And we often use this with the verbs be, go, turn, or make. So I was green with envy. I went green with envy. I turned green with envy, or I made Jane green with envy. Next one is have green fingers or got green fingers. What's the meaning behind this one? If someone has green fingers, it means that they are good at gardening. They're good at looking after plants and flowers. So basically, plants and flowers often need a lot of care and a lot of skill to help them grow. And if you are an expert at doing that, we can say you have got green fingers. Moving on to white as a sheet or as white as a ghost. What's the meaning for this one? As white as a sheet, as white as a ghost. So, this one means to become very pale because of fear, shock, illness, etc. Again, when the blood drains from your face because you're scared, suddenly scared, or because you're sick in some way. And we often use this with the verbs be, go, turn, and look. So he went white as a ghost. She went white as a sheet. I turned white as a ghost. You looked white as a sheet. Next one is white coffee. White coffee, pretty simple this one, so I'm not going to give you much time. White coffee is just a simple, basic coffee with milk or cream. If we don't use milk or cream, then we call it a black coffee. A white-collar worker, a white-collar job. What's the meaning of that? A white-collar worker is someone who is a non-manual worker, e.g., for example, an office worker or someone who does professional or business work. So people who work in business, people who work in an office, people who wear a suit and tie to go to their job. Similarly, a pink collar worker or a pink collar job. So a pink collar worker is someone who works in the service industry, people who have to deal with lots of customers, students, patients. So teachers, nurses, waiters, or sales clerks, as just a few examples. And finally, a white lie or a little white lie. So, what is a white lie? A white lie is a lie which does no harm and is more polite than the truth, usually told to spare someone's feelings or for convenience. So, a white lie is used when we don't want to make someone feel bad. If we think that telling the truth will upset someone, maybe we use a white lie to make them feel better. But again, be careful, because if someone finds out you didn't tell the truth, then yeah, they're going to get upset anyway. And that's it for this lesson. So what I would like you to do is to practice. Try and write your own sentences with these idioms and comment below. So watching this video is not enough. If you're not using the idioms, then you are going to forget them. So a simple way to use the idioms is to write them down. Maybe you can use your own examples to help you remember. If you're talking about a green belt, then maybe you can talk about the city or the town that you live in and the green belts nearby you. If you're going to talk about a white lie, maybe think about a time when you told a white lie to someone. But using the idioms will help you remember them. Using examples from your own life will make it even easier to remember them, but keep using them. And if you think your sentences are good, then feel free to write them in the comment section below. Show everybody just how good your English is. And finally, subscribe. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Yeah, I make videos all the time. I made a video a couple of days ago about the gamer of the future, what gamers will look like in 2040. And if you subscribe and turn on that notification bell, then you will know when I've released a new video or when I am making a live video like this. And tell others about me as well. Why? Because if you're going to be using these idioms with other students or other co-workers who are also learning English, when you use a phrase like a pink collar worker, they might not know what you are talking about. But if you've already told them about me and they've watched this video, then when you use these idioms, they will know exactly what you're talking about when you use these idioms. English is a social language. Studying by yourself will do you some good, but sharing these videos, sharing all the English together will make not just you, but everybody around you better. The better everyone gets, the more everyone in the group can improve. So tell others about me. Don't just study alone. And Bill has also asked the question, how often do I live stream? So I try to do 2 or 3 live streams a week. I think I'm going to start doing them more steadily on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Previously, I've been doing them Mondays and Wednesdays, but I've got to start doing things on Mondays. So I think from next week, Tuesdays and Thursdays at about this time, because I don't know where in the world you are watching this. And about this time, or every Tuesday and Thursday, I will have a live stream. I've been doing idioms, but if there's anything that you would like to know about, then please tell me because I can make a lesson about that. So I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you all for watching. Bill, thank you for watching. And thank you for letting me talk about you. And I'll see you all again soon. Until next time, bye-bye.